Hello there, thanks a lot for coming by PosterCentral.com's video blog today. I'm Pete Howard and welcome to part one of a two-part video because this is such a fun and amazingly historic item I'm showing you today. It doesn't have his name on there anywhere, but this is the very first concert ticket of Elvis Presley's career. Wow. It was the Slim Whitman show in Memphis, Tennessee, July 30th, at 8 p.m. That was a Friday night, and the year was stunningly 1954. And the location was the Overton Park Shell in Memphis. What a historic ticket, and you know, it comes from just an amazingly important, historic, and seminal month for young Elvis, July of 1954. Listen to all these things that happened just in July. On the 4th, he first met Scotty Moore and Bill Black, of course, his guitarist and bassist, which would form Scotty and Bill. Then the very next day they recorded That's All Right, the famous final take we hear to this day, the day after they met. On the 8th, WHBQ disc jockey Dewey Phillips spun the acetate on the airwaves and started the local frenzy for this new phenom. And then roughly about the 21st of July, that first single was released, Sun 209, Blue Moon of Kentucky, and That's All Right. And then on the 26th, Elvis, along with his parents, because he was underage, signed a Sun Records recording contract. On the 27th, Elvis gave his first ever press interview to the local paper. On the 28th, he picked up a paycheck for $46 from Crown Electric for 46 hours of work. Haha, he had done that week. Wow. And then on the 30th, to cap off the month, the first concert appearance of his life. And here's the ticket. Opening for country western hitmaker Slim Whitman, who had accrued 7 top 10 country hits thus far. Now, to further illustrate this evening, let's take a look at a couple of local newspaper ads for the show. So on the left there you have the ad from the Memphis Press Scimitar, and on the right from the Commercial Appeal. Now both of these ads say tonight, so obviously they're dated July 30th, but they do have many differences. On the left, under Slim Whitman's name, notice it says, with Billy Walker, Elvis Presley, and many others. Wow, what a typo. And the Commercial Appeal ad is much more Elvis friendly, if you will. Notice how his name is right there in the center of the ad, of the tall column in bold print. And both song titles of Sun 209 are given. Isn't that nice? And interestingly, That's All Right adds Mama already. Just like 10 days after the single's released, that song title on the record is already being amended a bit to include all 4 words. That's All Right, Mama. What's also weird about that ad is that Slim Whitman's name is completely missing, just has his picture, and they do give 5 of his song titles. So I guess they felt his face was enough to promote who it was, right? So these are the only 2 known advertisements of any kind whatsoever for the July 30th Overton Park Shell show. There's no advance advertisements from the newspapers known, let alone a poster or a handbill. Now luckily the Overton Park band shell is still standing, and I visited it in 2011 on just a lovely deserted winter's day with nobody else around, and I took some pictures. Here's a good view of it, and as you can see it's now called the Levitt Shell. Now rather than some local furniture store or something, the Levitt Foundation is a non-profit that supports a string of outdoor venues presenting free concert series around the country. And at the time of this video in 2018, there were 8 such pavilions around the U.S. And this very one here in Memphis was presenting about 50 free concerts a year, so that's some serious stuff. And then I've got a closer-in picture of just the stage area here. Kind of interesting, gives you a better view of what maybe, 15th row center was like or something. And you see that, semicircle centerpiece back there at the rear of the stage? Well, there's a stage door behind that, and there it is. Boy, probably the exact same door that the 19-year-old Elvis Presley walked through back on this fateful summer night. And my next picture is actually standing on the stage itself, looking out toward where the audience was. And at this time of the year, in the middle of winter, you had, dead grass or just dirt there. And also, other than a couple of stray benches, notice there's no, rows of seats or anything. And in my research, I was unable to discern if back in 1954 there was temporary folding chair seating or actually permanently installed rows of benches. That I don't know, but this is certainly what it looked like in 2011. Then I went around to the back of the venue because I wanted to take a picture, of the backstage entrance door. And I don't know if you can quite make it out, but right above that door is the number 1928, and that reflects the address for the Overton Park Shell, 1928 Poplar Avenue in Memphis. And then finally, I wanted to show you a picture that I didn't take, but it's really nicely illustrative of how the Shell is being used today for its approximate 50 free concerts a year, and how people just, put down blankets and stuff and gather on the grass in front of the Shell to enjoy the entertainment. So to show you the smaller print on the ticket, I went ahead and took a photograph of it and just blew it up for you so you can see it really easily. There it says it in the smaller type, reserved, advance $1, at door $1.25, and kid 75 cents. So this was sort of a reserved ticket, not entirely. They give you the section and the row, but not a seat number. And the section was written in by hand, as was the row. As you can see, this one says CR for center right, and then row L. Now, a couple of decades ago, I owned this ticket from row Q and put a picture of it on my website. It's still there, so that picture's really out there. Now, you'll notice also that the high and the low ticket price, the $1.25 and the 75 cents, were lined out in pencil. So logic just tells us that when the ticket was sold, instead of circling the $1 price, the seller, the ticket vendor if you will, just lined out the other two prices that didn't apply. And a temperamental blue ink pen appears to have been present here. You've got that thumbprint on the word Shell and a squiggly mark up there above the word show. Well, let's just say I'll have more on that in part 2. So, since this was the Slim Whitman show after all, I gotta show you at least one picture of the guy. Here he is, a lefty as you can see, and remember I said he had 7 top 10 country hits at the time of this show? Well, Slim would go on to chart 37 altogether into the 1980s, but surprisingly, never a #1 record. And then remember the newspaper ad that said one Billy Walker was the second billed artist for the show tonight? Well, here's a picture of Billy, and boy, he was enjoying his first top 10 hit, his first, at the time of this concert, and he would chart 65 country records well into the late 1980s. So both of these artists above Elvis really had long country careers in front of them. Well, as long as we're looking at the performers, we have to look at the man of the hour, right? Well, here's Elvis just a couple of months later at the Eagle's Nest in Memphis, Tennessee. And gotta show his backup boys as well, right? The Blue Moon Boys. Yeah, take a look at this. Scotty and Bill, also taken in 1954. Of course, you have Scotty Moore on the left, his guitarist, and Bill Black on the right, the stand-up bassist. So this concludes part 1, that's right, yeah, of this 2-part video. So be sure to jump over to part 2, and I'm going to talk about how Elvis did on stage that night, right, with his 3 whole songs. Discuss whether this is the first concert ticket in the history of rock and roll, but show you a pretty strong challenger to that claim. And we'll take a look at what's written on the back of the ticket. And I'll give you a hint, it's the best part. Okay, thanks, take care, we'll see you over in part 2.